This is Lauren.
This is Trey.
And this
is the Partnership Podcast. Lauren and I just completed Dr. Betty Martin's Like a Pro Wheel of Consent for Practitioners 5-day workshop. Our main guides were Robyn and Carmen, and special shout out to Tunde and Jax. And we're going to talk about it on a podcast. And that's how you do an intro. Hey, everybody.
Good morning, baby. Hi, my friend.
Good morning, audience.
Good morning.
I'll get to you in a second. Good morning, my sweet audience.
It's been a while, y'all. It's been a while.
It's been a while.
Trey had all these deep desires to podcast while we were gone before we left.
I'll speak for myself. I was like, yeah, we could do it. That's about as deep as it went. Like, yeah,
really?
Yeah, we could do it.
Yeah.
It was great where we brought all of this like beautiful, sophisticated equipment minus the cameras. So doing audio only on a podcast is such a light lift. It's such a fucking luxury. Where you just, it's great. Or like a one camera setup even.
Oh, that would be
Tits.
total tits.
Yeah.
Titilicious.
So we went to Dr. Betty Martin's Wheel of Consent training certification.
Like a pro training.
Like a pro training. And it's a week long. It was Tuesday through Saturday. It was 5 days, right? Mm-hmm. And 8 hours a day, where it was 10 to 6, hour and a half lunch break, and then we had breaks. In my mind, too much training. Meaning, before we started, I go, why is it so long? Why, oh why? It's the perfect amount of training. Because you need that much time to get really fucking open. So, okay, give me some prompts. I feel like I'm already off the rails.
You're not off the rails.
We're a minute and a half in.
I started crying already. Yeah, please tell me. So we had a whole podcast. Part one of this was, how we were feeling going in. We were open, curious, but we really had no idea what to expect. I didn't, and I don't think you did at all. But I do know that you had voiced a few times, like 10 to 6 every day for 5 days in a row. Mm-hmm. What was your anticipation of how your body would feel after days and days and days of that?
Well, there were the first 2 days primarily. It's like I'm gassed, I'm talked out,
okay.
I'm lessened out.
Okay.
I need to not do this, but day 3, day 4, especially day 5, much more resourced after we were done. Like day 5 was the very last day of training. It was such a gorgeous time and saying goodbye to everyone. And it was such a beautiful highlight. And I was so resourced. Like I was so energized and juiced up when we left.
Y'all, I don't know how long you've been viewers and listeners of this podcast, but I personally have been in a relationship with said Trey since 2019. I have never seen him people for 5 days and leave this last event feeling more energized.
Correct.
I have never. And I know Lauren speaks in extremes sometimes, but I am serious here. I am serious tits here. I've never seen that. And I guess my first question to you is, why do you think that was?
Because it was nothing was expected of me. And I shared a vulnerability when we first started. Our very first day, we went around, how am I feeling? And wow, the first 30 minutes of day 1, I was like, wait a minute, are these people trustworthy? Mm-hmm. Because the last time I was in a space where we were talking about opening and flowing and trust and boundaries, they were violated. So I got to share that with the entire class, where it's like I'm feeling guarded and I'm assessing, is this a trustworthy space for myself and my partner. And the response was good.
Right.
Keep doing it. You're allowed to be that way. Oh, and it's like also, I have permission to leave at any time. And then the response from the room was, yes, you do. And then built in to all of the exercises, if you feel like it.
One of my favorite things they would say, if you would like to opt into this exercise by doing, please stand. Mm-hmm. Inferring that you could opt in by sitting in your seat and observing. You could opt in by closing your eyes and listening to the sounds in the room. You could opt in by leaving the space, because that might be how you best need to do the exercise right now.
We were at a yoga studio. There was a really big open space where we did the majority of our stuff. There, bathroom. There was like a room dedicated to snacks. And then there was an outdoor area that was really big and expansive and beautiful.
Stunning.
So even one of the opt-ins was, Carmen said this, where it's like you can opt in by going outside. Mm-hmm. You're still in the exercise. You're just doing it your way. So that was beautiful.
Stunning.
And it was also beautiful being around queer people.
Yes.
Bisexual people.
Yes.
Gay people.
Yes.
Non-binary people.
Yes.
And as a straight male white, I was accepted in that space.
Yeah.
And then I wanted to reflect that right back. I'm so fortunate to have grown up in Long Beach, California.
Yeah.
Where it's a true melting pot. Mm-hmm. Gender, race, sexual orientation. And whoever you are, sometimes you're just trying to get through your day. And I can really, that's a human, I can really relate to that. So yeah, it was beautiful to be in the space. And to be accepted and to accept. But I'm so fortunate when I don't come in with those stigmas.
Yeah. And yet so many have stigmas. So many of us have been harmed by straight male whites, as you put it. So I also appreciate your posture that you come in, which is not, I deserve your trust, because you would never ask anyone. Mm-hmm. You would never want anyone to think that of you. And so you don't come into a space like that either. And that's equally as beautiful. And I don't want to fawn over you. No, you're so great. I don't mean it like that.
You always say trust is earned through trustworthy behavior.
Yes. And that's how you show up in a space. Yeah. And you just ask others to understand that as well. Please know mm-hmm. that this is not that you are mean. This is, no, I need to earn your trust. I will decide. Mm-hmm. One of our incredible fellow students said provisional trust. We went to lunch with her the first day.
Yeah, it's provisional every day, every moment. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And
I thought that was a really beautiful way to put it, because you were sharing at lunch on the very first day, your nervous system was just like, don't know. This is all beautiful. This is all gorgeous rhetoric. We took the entire, from the morning to lunch the first day, talking about agreements, group agreements, and safer containers and accountability and what would happen if this didn't, if someone didn't follow our guidelines. But your body was still like, I don't know. This sounds a lot like the hyperbole I heard before.
True. Can I share a couple of mistakes that I made?
Yeah.
One of my biggest mistakes is I'm a huge fan of fasting, but not when it's time for the deeper work, because that can get in the way of the deeper work. And I came into that room not fueled. So I didn't have food in my tummy when we went to that beautiful Ethiopian restaurant. Excuse me. Let's get back to this one. I felt so much more energy. And then I knew, oh, dude, I don't go, if I need to putt for an hour, I don't go empty stomached anymore, because I'm going to start focusing on fuel, because my mind, getting off topic.
No, we have to feed our minds.
Anyway, so I made that mistake day one. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And then I learned from that, and I was hungry, so I had that resource, or excuse me, I was fed, so I had that resource before I walked into the space.
Every other day.
Every other day, for
Yeah,
sure.
no, you ate. I now remember. Yeah, you ate big amounts, normal amounts of food. The same amount of food that if you were going to go do a massage. I mean, you've told me before you like to fuel your body before a massage too. Like anything that's going to do deeper work, whether it's physical energy, mental energy, or emotional energy, you need to fuel your body.
Yeah, and also I was battling, I'd rather be doing something else. And then we stayed, it was in Old Town Alexandria, which is like something out of a movie set.
Y'all.
I don't know how it's like that, right off of King Street. Holy shit.
In the first week of September, where the weather was magic.
Yeah. And then in my mind, I was like, I could be drinking beer, eating calamari, looking at the ocean. I was like, I don't want to do this. I want to drink beer and eat calamari and look at the ocean. So, yeah, and it buy-in's real, but also you need a lot of it's not required, and it shouldn't be expected.
Yeah.
And like, talk about if you give people permission to the world I came from in sports, get on our page or get the fuck out. Which there's value to that. It's even hard for me right now to say there's value to that. But that's the world I came from for many years.
Right. Do you feel it all? Here's another question for you. That kind of, what's really cool too is we had a full moon last night, which was all about revisiting past ways of doing things.
What's today? Today's date's September 18th. So yesterday, September 17th.
Last night we had at 10:40 something on the East Coast. We had a Pisces full moon and a lunar eclipse. So like all this kind of crazy shit happening astrologically, which I don't understand enough to be actually helpful, but. It was kind of the theme of it was revisiting old patterns and ways of doing things and kind of letting them crumble. And that feeling hard, that feeling like a grief, that feeling like loss, and understanding that sometimes these are gifts from the universe. Not saying what's wrong with me, why am I revisiting this old pattern and is it crumbling, but instead embracing it as, sometimes things gotta crumble. And I think this idea that consent is agreements regarding who is doing and who is being done to and who a gift is for, what's happening, and that through true consensual communication, we could change the fucking world. That's big stuff. And so I loved that you just caught yourself going, it has, value? Because it's like, wait, does it?
Yep.
Does it?
Yeah.
And is it okay to go? Does it? Used to think, right? One of my favorite colleagues in my other program that I'm in right now says, up until now, I believed that that way of communication has value. Now I'm not so sure. I'm sitting with it. I don't know. And they kept saying all week, it's a practice. This is a practice.
Which I can relate to. I'll say it's a process.
Yeah. Different type of verbiage, same idea. Yeah, I agree. I think that you are such an example of that, of practice. Practice.
But it has to be intentional.
It does,
Yeah,
right?
or you're
We
just
have to
exercising.
apply.
Or you're just exercising. Yeah, and then probably mentally, I don't know what you call that. Yeah, unless it's intentional.
Okay, let's speak to practice for a second. One of my favorite parts about the training was that we would have some learning time, like education, and then we would practice physically with our bodies.
Yeah.
How was that as an embodied learning technique for you? Did you feel like it helped the head knowledge move into the body? If so, why?
Oh, it was fucking brilliant. Where it's, I equate everything to swimming. So what they did in the room was, okay, we're going to focus on this and we're going to do this as far as swimming. We're going to make sure and hit these kind of check marks. We're going to have these guidelines. We're going to put guardrails up. So like these are the standards, or these are the standards, or these are the limitations of it.
Yep.
And now let's get in the pool. So we talked a little bit, and then we actually put it into application.
Yeah.
Which is that needs to be done everywhere. We don't learn how to swim reading a textbook, or you don't learn how to swim if someone talks at you. So we put things into reality. It's beautiful.
Again and again and again.
That was my big thing. I have an MBA in sports management. I learned more on the job in 3 months than I learned from my, I don't know what, $55,000 education over 2.5 years. Because all they fucking taught me was theory. They didn't teach me how to get the maintenance department to respond to your emails within 24 hours.
Right.
They didn't teach me how to wash the jerseys or fundraise for them next season, because these ones are fucked up.
Right.
I learned that through practice.
Yeah.
And interacting with, it starts with a P.
People. Because that's existence. That's life. That's work. That's pleasure. That's play. Yeah. Talk to me about this thing that we did every morning called a listening turn.
Oh, yeah. Okay. One of our very first things when we broke out into groups, we're going to do a listening, where your job is to listen to the other person. So let's do one right now.
Okay. Do you
Honey,
want me to set it up? Oh,
would you like to? I'll set it up. Would you like to go first? Would you like to be the listener, or would you like me to listen to you first? So Lauren right now is checking in with herself. She just closed her eyes, and she's actually checking in what she wants. This is actually very important, what's going on right now.
Yeah, I think I want to talk first.
Great. As far as my reactions, would you like me neutral, or would you like me natural?
Could you be neutral? Yeah, so no reactions, just kind of presence.
Yeah, so now my job is to almost keep my face similar to what you'd call a poker face, where I'm not going to have big smiles, or I'm not going to have big frowns, because I can get pretty animated myself. So now it's just it's not silence it, but just to kind of keep it still. So sometimes the ocean's still, sometimes it's very rambunctious, so I'm just going to keep myself still. And then my response was, yes, I'd be happy to. And then what we do is we'd set a timer, not us, but our lovely practitioners, Carmen and Robyn, would set a timer. And then Lauren gets to talk.
Can I do 1 minute?
Yeah.
I got it.
You got it?
The other timer going.
And my job is just to be still.
Yeah, thank you for this. I think already I started to well up with tears. There's so much that I'm still integrating from this past week. It was beautiful, and it was hard. It was refreshing, and it was sobering. I think there's a piece of me that wishes that I could take a week to recalibrate post training instead of diving back in. And then there's another piece of me that can't wait to get back to my work. And I feel scared. I feel that something broke open inside of me, and I just wish I had more time with it. Thank you.
You're welcome. So since I was
The listener,
I was giving the gift of listening, Hence why Lauren said, thank you. Then I say, you're welcome. Can I do one and then we can talk about like what came up for both of us? 10 minutes.
As far as my face, would you like me neutral? Would you like me naturally expressive? Would you like eye contact? Would you like lack of eye contact?
I would love eye contact. I would like natural. And then if I could make the requests of if you could try to refrain from going mm-hmm or uh-huh or laughing.
Cool.
Yeah.
Anything else?
No.
Would you like to tell me when you're ready to begin?
I'm ready. Holy shit. It was good to be home. Like the training was beautiful. But the fucking, our Airbnb, so the first night, it slumped. Like the bedpost is slumped. And I'm like, there's something going on with the bedboards underneath. And we're kind of sliding into each other. It was like a big old U shape. And so we lifted up in the morning. Friends, there was a broken, like all the wooden, it was all fucked and broken. And what they had done, and they is the mystery, had put a bunch of hardcover books on there, like a kid would do Legos to try to prop it up, but all the books were just strewn all over the place. It was so funny. At first, I was like, this angers me. But just letting it move through, it's like, that's hilarious. So I reach out to the Airbnb people. I take a... Thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay, so then we were prompted to actually... I did this in my groups where one of us shared just like we did, or we kind of went back and forth.
Yeah.
And it kind of naturally happened that way. What would you like to do? Excuse me.
It's okay.
Excuse me.
I would love to share how it feels to be given the gift of someone's presence without feeling like you need to entertain them or keep them interested or feel into their response. Can I talk about that for a second?
Please.
Here, I'll set a timer because usually we'd have a
We
sharing
set a
time
timer for
and there would be a
too,
timing for
which
sharing.
I think is important.
I do too. Yeah, I found myself, even though we've now done this practice for days, once I was here, I found myself looking for your like nods, like to tell me I should keep going or could keep going in what I was talking about. And when I realized, again, this is for me. Trey's already given the gift. His gift is the presence. I just get to take up all the space in this minute. I get to talk about whatever I want to talk about. It's okay if I'm boring him. That it actually doesn't matter. He's given the gift. I loved when Carmen would talk about that you can a little bit check out. It's okay. Like as long as you're here mentally present, you have given the gift. You are enough. Your presence is the gift. And I think I so often look for your permission, especially in these podcasting chairs, to keep talking. And I noticed that even in my body now. So thank you.
You're welcome.
How did it feel for you?
Timer going?
It does. Let me restart it though. How do I do that?
Dead air. It's always good podcasting.
It's always a good
Podcasting
thing.
Resume.
Resume. I'll give you 5 seconds after this.
Cool. As soon as you said like I'm scared and you started to tear up, in my body I was like, how do we fix that? And it's like, oh, how do I reaffirm or reassure her that she's allowed to feel that way? Because a lot of the times I don't fix it. And I don't want to go to fixing anymore. I just go, babe, you're allowed to. And then I know that Lauren will use me as a springboard, which is completely consensual, or just kind of sit with it or let it move through her. It's so important to let things move through her. So that was an interesting noticing where I went to, and then I had to kind of pull back where I was like, whoa, not your job. Just be neutral right now.
Yeah.
And even at first, and it'll pick up on the cameras where my facial expression went big, maybe the first 10 seconds. And I was like, ooh, you got to calm all that down. Just calm motion, calm motion, calm motion. So that was interesting.
You get 5 more seconds. How did yours feel to talk without me?
It was fun. I liked it. I like telling stories like that. Yeah, it was fun.
Yeah, I think there's something magical about just getting to take up the space.
Yes, and I want to incorporate listenings with my best friend. She's in Houston. We talk all the time. I think she would love this. Like, hey, can I just have a listening? And we'll literally set a timer.
Yeah.
Or just say that's it. Yeah.
And Carmen and Robyn were telling us that when they do this as friends now, they will say, do you have time for a 10-minute listening turn? And the other one will say, not 10, but I got 7 on my way to this thing. Does that work? And they'll say yes. And then they will say, okay, obviously if you're driving in the car, you're not doing the face thing. But after your listening turn, would you like me just to say thank you and it to be done? Or would you like feedback or mirroring or ideas or anything? And they get to choose.
That's very similar to what we do.
Yes.
Do you want my advice or do you want me just to listen?
Right. It's very similar. And I think it's beautiful. What is so neat about this, you all, is that oftentimes, and I sat with different people every single day doing this and never sat with the same person twice. You watch their stream of consciousness and them usually if they're presenting a problem at the top, they've figured it out by the end themselves. All my people that I sat with. Some people started out sharing, I feel like I'm too much in this situation, blah, 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 blah. And some people had asked for flat face. Some people had asked for interaction. It was just so cool. And it was so cool, especially at the beginning of the week. We didn't know these people at all.
No.
By my 5th day, it's like you just kind of noticed people and you were able to like say, I'm so thankful to have this time with you because I've watched you all week and we haven't gotten to work together yet. And so you got to say things like that. But in the beginning, you didn't know these people.
Preconceived notions wash away too. Yeah.
That was so beautiful. Okay, so listening turn was one of my favorite takeaways. Did you have a favorite takeaway or another takeaway? It doesn't need to be a favorite.
It's something you just mentioned where, am I too big? I had those feelings come up. I'm too much. I'm in people's way and I'm taking up too much space, which I don't have those. A lot of the times, baby, you'll say, am I too much? And I go, I need your too much. But for me to have those feelings was very new. And I noticed that in the room. And then, throughout the week, it was, I had to do a lot of check-ins with self where it's like, am I too much? And maybe. But also it's like, do you take care of your people? I want to say, and I want to say yes with confidence. Yeah, that I don't want to reflect manipulation, withholding. I want to do those things. I've done it in the past, a lot of my 20s. I didn't have these tools. So that was interesting for me to have those feelings of being too much. And it's, you know what it is? It's scary. It was scary for me. Because do I ask too much? Which was completely new.
May I ask a question?
Yeah.
We did one exercise for about 30 minutes where we all were listing all the many reasons why all 20 of us there in the room don't ask for what we want, or why the population, why the world doesn't ask for what they want. We went on and on and on and on. I heard you say some really interesting things. Do you remember any of the things that you said of why folks, the population doesn't ask for what they want?
One of them, my big ones, is being perceived as lazy.
Yeah.
So asking for help, especially if I have the resilience to do it by myself, and then feeling the feelings of they're going to see me as lazy or taking advantage of them.
Great. So then after we were all listing all of these incredible reasons out, then they threw the question at us, what do you do instead of asking for what you want?
Oh, yeah.
Do you remember what you said on that one?
No.
I think you said, and you could change the words because maybe it'll bring it up. Do it all anyway. Like take it all on, do it all myself.
Oh, yeah.
Overwork, overfunction.
Hyper independence.
Yeah, that's what I think you said.
If I don't do it, it doesn't get done type shit. And then for me, it goes to martyring.
Yeah.
Where I'm by myself. No one's here to help me.
Yeah.
And also at the same time, I didn't ask for any of it.
Right. Yeah. So what I was wondering, and this is kind of the question that I am posturing to you, is by nature of putting all that out there, like all of us did, I think all of us were feeling this. Well, then it's like, oh God, well, I guess my only answer is to ask for what I really need, want, and desire. And I did find it fascinating that I don't usually hear you say, am I too much? But once we had all come to grips with, all of us there in the room, I want to affirm this, it felt like too much in my body too. Like, okay, so the solution is to ask for what we need, want, and desire. The solution is to make requests. May I and will you request? What? Well, that's a lot. It's a whole lot.
Baby, at the end of the day, I think we're a lot, you and I. I think we're just a whole lot of people. You and me together,
yeah, babe.
We're a lot. How do you feel about that?
Very comforted after we spent a whole afternoon talking about domains. I am okay with my a lot because it's my responsibility to tend to my allotness. They did this exercise where they put a blanket down on the ground and they asked one of our classmates to step on the blanket. Well, she volunteered. And then they asked us, okay, what do you think is within a human's domain? It was things like values, emotions, feelings, our bodies, our wants, our needs, our home. Okay. My preferences. These are all within my domain. And then Robyn said this quote, which literally shook me to my core, that human relationship is the negotiation of the space between your domain and mine. And I am so fucking okay with being a lot, because that's my job. And to consensually negotiate the space between you and me, my client and me, my friends and me, everything else, that's all on the table. So long as I don't expect anyone to come in and tend to my domain without my request for help. And so long as I don't steal from another's without a request for their time, attention, touch.
Is stealing from another also like bulldozing?
Yeah, and I think we at another point we put up the wheel and we talked about all the shadows of each quadrant. And yes, I think the word bulldozing got used in the outside of taking.
The stereotypical a lot archetype for me is someone that comes into the room, is loud or is obnoxious and doesn't listen to anyone and is there really to kind of take. Even at a party, it's like they're taking the food or they're taking too much alcohol or they're literally taking up too much volume. That's the stereotype that I think of a lot. And then those people's like, oh, you got to get the fuck away from those people.
Why?
Because they're unsafe.
Right. Because they're not tending to their own limits or the limits of others.
And probably a lot of that has to do with insecurity as well. And I don't think we check those boxes.
Well, do you remember Robyn said at some point this idea that we need to make sure that we are receiving as much as we possibly can in consensual receiving, asking will yous, getting massages, having listening turns, making so many requests for things. so that when we get into spaces, we don't take. Okay, as human beings, we have needs. We have needs. We have wants. We have desires. To make sure, and she was really calling out people in my profession, right? To make sure that I'm not taking from a client non-consensually is really important, right? And I would say to that person too, who goes into a room, I loved that you said from Insecurity, and drinks too much and is too loud and takes up too much space. We both know these people. Without knowledge of, I have taken too much. It's now time to share the space. I would say they're hungry. I would say they're not getting fed enough somewhere else.
I'd agree.
So the irony of being too much is that if we don't tend to those needs, we're going to get them somewhere else. Right? Somebody used the term desire smuggling. I had never heard that before. But like, Trey, don't you want to go on a walk with me later? When really what Lauren wants is to go on a walk. Or what Lauren really wants is connected time with Trey. But I'm not saying it. I'm desire smuggling. I'm like sliding it in there, right? There have been many times where I'm like, do you want to go on a walk later? And she's like, no. Or our favorite bar. No. But what is really important for me is to understand, is it that I want to go to that bar, or is it that I want quality time with Trey?
Yeah.
Either of those could be communicated. But saying, oh, a little bit. But.
Ew.
Right?
Because that would read in my mind as like, what the fuck? And manipulation.
Manipulation.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah. That's what we do instead of asking for what we want.
Yeah.
Interesting.
And specifically, you do not do that to me.
Right.
It would set off, when I get manipulated, it sets off so many red flags in my body. And then I'm so much better at actually listening to those versus bypassing those now.
And I just think it is why it is paramount to take a sacred pause. That's what I did before when I went, when Trey was like, hey, one listening turn, and do you want to go first? Do you want me to go first? It's imperative because nobody else can understand what we need, want, or desire. It's not Trey's job. It's my job. I can make offers. I can make requests. That's it. I can do the partnership podcast fave question of how can I support you?
Yeah.
I can. I can say, Trey, will you do this for me today? We're working on my car. Funny story, y'all. While we were at this training, we had taken my car to the shop, and one day I got a call from the mechanic, and I was assuming it was during training, so I didn't even really look at it, but I saw I missed a call from them. And I was assuming they were just saying it was done and ready to be picked up, and we had the rest of training, so I didn't really attend to this message till the end. But I called them back on Monday, but while we were at the training, the night I got that phone call from my mechanic, I had a dream that my car got hit while on the lot of my mechanics. I was like, that's funny. Didn't really think anything of it. But when I called them back on Monday, they told me, hey, we fixed this and we fixed this. And then his voice got really quiet and he said, and Lauren, your car got hit while I was on the property. Wild. But all that to say, we don't have my car, so we're one car family right now. And before we came on air, Trey and I were just talking about using Wheel of Consent to talk about my transportation needs over this next week and what's my responsibility and what's his responsibility. And we stated it's Trey's responsibility to make offers. He is not a selfish husband. He is a very wonderful partner who wants me to be able to get to where I need to go. But it's my responsibility to make requests. And I must tend to my limits and needs. He must tend to his limits and needs. I don't want Trey to become a martyr over this week. It's not his fault that my car got hit. It's not his fault. It's not my fault either. But I get to make requests. He gets to make offers. Babe, is there anything you need from me today? Is there anything I can do for you? Is there anything you need to take from me? Do you need to take the car out at any time? Mm-hmm. These are literally the offers.
How can I help?
Yeah.
Like, how can I be in service, which is my biggest strength?
Yeah. But not going outside of it.
Yeah. And then you even said something where it was, I like you said to me, but yours are more important.
Oh yeah.
And I go, no. I can't operate that way. That doesn't feel good for me. And we even got to talk about that.
Yeah. Let's close out talking about, because we could just talk about this forever. Well, were Carmen and Robyn great teachers?
Yeah. Yeah, they're very trustworthy people.
Thank you guys, if you're watching.
Yeah.
Can you talk about, at one point we put the wheel on the floor.
Mm-hmm.
And so y'all, we did the floor, they put painter's tape out on the floor. And
I had a lovely interaction with Robyn
As she
because I
does.
couldn't get the fucking verbiage right. Because the verbiage is very specific when you're inside of the wheel and you're in one of the quadrants. You have very specific verbiage. And then my efficiency brain goes to, why isn't this written down where I can look up and see it? And I go, you know what? I go to Robyn. I go, Robyn, I'm frustrated. I don't know what to say. Where's it that? You know what she does? She gets out a fucking pen and she starts putting in parentheses. And I was like, holy shit, this person. Yep.
So
Yep.
Trey stood.
Got a crush on Robyn. Yep.
Oh, wait, we could talk about that one of our classmates said, you had a listening turn. Sorry, we'll get back to the wheel on the floor, but this was one of my highlights. We had a listening turn, and I want to keep all the names of our classmates anonymous.
Yes. We can say Robyn and Carmen, right?
Yes, we can, because they're our instructors.
I can't beep, beep. I can't do that. I don't have that capability.
No, it's like for
beyond
the
my
world to
capacity.
see
Beep, beep,
that they were the
beep, beep.
instructors. So
Can't do it.
And we had listening turns. I want to say it was on the third or fourth day. And there was a share afterwards with the person who was in a listening turn with you. And she said, I'm going to start this, but then you can give a little more. It was so lovely to have a listening turn with you because she knew that you were in partnership with me. And she had been worried about touching you, getting near you, doing exercises with you because sisterhood, because she wanted to protect me. And you had gotten to share, I guess, in that I celebrated you being in a space with many energies and women and touching other women and receiving from other women. Did you get to, yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
And like for context, if I get hit on at the Home Depot today, I am so excited to share that with Lauren because she receives it and she gets excited to hear it. And it's not taking one for the team and she's not enduring and tolerating my story. She's genuinely excited. That was a good day when I got hit on at the Home Depot.
Anyway, it was,
What an
y'all,
emboldened woman.
Might have been one of my highlights of the whole trip because I don't own Trey. Trey does not own me.
No.
And I understand what this classmate was saying, that it is tricky to be in a space with partners where you're afraid that somebody will think that you're cheating or like using their partner inappropriately.
It's a very intimate space, but also one of the big guidelines before we started is we do not court arousal.
Yeah, there was none of that happening.
There's no arousal courting in the space.
Yeah.
It may happen.
Sure.
And then you can notice it. And that's that.
Yeah.
And it's really beautiful because that's not what the space is for. Follow the rules.
Dr. Betty Martin herself says often that we conflate touch and sex, and that as a human race, we are starved for touch. So for my precious partner to get to sit in a space where consensually, within the limits, within the guidelines, he got to be touched all day, every day, was one of the greatest joys of my life.
Yeah.
Where he got to touch and feel and, oh God, by the end, there was so much consensual hugging, sharing, and hugs going on. We all need that. Now, we haven't all been coached up on this wheel. And as Trey said at the top of this podcast, we have been hurt in a space where it was supposed to be juicy, good touching. It wasn't. It wasn't because people did not know these types of modalities. They broke the rules. But for me to get to rejoice that you were in a space where I could trust that people would follow the rules. And if they did not, it was not okay. It was going to be told no. And we had protocols to follow.
We even had it where it was public. Like if someone breaks the rules, we talk about it in front of the group.
Which is another thing that did not happen at the other thing, right? Yeah. And so
the other thing was a tantra space that we were in back in late May of this year.
I'll put it over there.
Great.
If you're watching on YouTube and
Great.
if you're watching on Spotify, I'll link it below. So a special thank you to Carmen, because when we did our interview with Carmen, I was able to share about that experience and how I was hoping this would be healing. And then I got to share it in the beginning. I got to declare it, to use your words, when we went around on the very first day. And then I got to share on the final day that we did an exercise on the final day where it was like the forest. What was it called?
I think rock forest trees or rock stump
something
tree.
forest. Sorry, y'all. Don't remember. But it was magical because you got to choose. You got to be an agency to choose whether or not you wanted to be a forest item, a forest object like a tree or a rock or a stream or a log or whatever, or if you wanted to be an explorer of the forest. And you could transfer around of what you wanted to be. And by this time, and Carmen was telling me, I don't know if you were present, it might have been when I just walked over to them. They both said, we thought long and hard, learn about like whether or not this game was safe to play. Like intentionally looking at me like we know that this is very similar to a game in which you were harmed. And they said we felt like it was good to play. And I said it was very good to play. Because we heal through play. Our bodies keep the score. Our bodies are where the trauma is stored, and it needs to move out. And so in this Exploring the Forest game, I chose to be a tree, but I chose to be a tree like this. And I closed off the pieces of my body that had been taken from non-consensually back in May. But then had the rest of my body open to be touched and explored. And again, all this is not courting arousal touch. This was like being a squirrel in a tree touch, or like somebody came up and like interlaced their fingers in mine and went out. A lot of people loved my nails this week, and so they would like come over and they would like take my hand and like stroke their arms up and down my hands. A lot of people rubbed against my back like they were a bear scratching their back.
Yeah, one of the people in the space, very masculine presence, and he was a sleeping bear. And so I was like, oh, I need to scratch his head. So I went over there, I scratched his head.
Yeah.
It was great.
It was so fun. Somebody came and like curled around the trunk of my tree and like put their head against it. Like they were taking shelter from my tree.
And it felt healing.
Yeah.
Great.
I mean, we could literally talk about this training for days, but the very first day, one of the exercises we did is 3 ways of no.
Yeah.
Do you remember this?
Oh, it was beautiful.
It was stunning.
3 ways of no was gorgeous.
Transformational.
It's important how to say no.
Yeah. So I had already practiced saying no with everybody in that room 3 different ways.
Great. Yeah, and we had those tools.
Uh-huh.
It was verbally, it was moving your body away, and it was actually physically say a hand's on your shoulder. Mm-hmm. So you could say no, or you could physically use your hand to take the hand off, or you could move backwards. That was the exercise. It was beautiful.
It was stunning.
Can I share my favorite? Can we, or do you, anything else? Should we wrap it up?
Yeah, we didn't finish talking about the wheel on the ground, but I want you to get to tell your forest story. So tell your...
Yes. Holy shit. One of the highlights of the week. Okay. So rock forest tree stump rock.
That's what Trey's calling this
and
exercise.
I shoot up and I'm a beautiful tree. And one of our lovely, my hands are kind of, one of them's over the head, one of them's in front. It's almost like a dance posture. And I'm standing there. And one of our lovely female classmates comes over and she just goes all over my body, in my armpit, in my chest. She sniffs me up and down. And in my mind, I'm saying, I've been claimed now. I go with her now. I've been claimed. I have to tell my wife goodbye. I've been claimed. It was something wild. But it was one of my favorite parts. Favorite parts of the entire week. Getting sniffed.
Okay. This is our closing question. We'll talk about Wheel on the Ground some other time because it was really awesome. And I loved how much you struggled with being and accepting. And so then when we played again, you went back to it again.
Yeah,
talk
the final
about
day.
Practice again.
Yeah, we did that 2 days in a row.
What I love watching about Trey is that when he, encounters an obstacle with something, he goes back and he revisits and he revisits and he revisits and he practices. And it's really beautiful. But, okay, I would wrap out on this. We have plenty of time. What was your favorite thing to observe in me during the week? And then I want to share my favorite thing to observe in you during the week.
Observed your wisdom when asking questions and giving comments. After every single exercise, the whole room got to talk if they wanted to, if they chose to. And I just find you so insightful. And it was beautiful to see you with your peers doing high level work. Like, what a gift. What a fucking gift that I got to see my babe, my sweet baby, just fucking doing her thing. It's so heart filling and also like what a turn on. Because you are not too much for me. I need you to go be your fullest version of yourself, and I got to see that. Yeah, I got to see you hitting home runs. I'm getting horny right now. Sex after this, yes or no?
No.
Thank you.
Thank you. Hey, can I make eye contact with you?
Yeah.
Thank you.
You're welcome, baby.
One of my things was to watch you mindfully embrace caution and honor your own limits and trust yourself and bestow trust upon individuals there in the room as it was earned. And I think my favorite thing was watching so many people in that room like fall in love with you by the end and watch you play. There was a moment on day 4 where you had finished an exercise with someone and you had been kind of more in the center of the circle, and so you just kind of rolled over and did the rest of the afternoon laying there on the floor and almost in the middle of the circle. And you had started out the week in a corner in the back, which felt safe and beautiful.
I spent most of the week in the corner in the back, but it was...
You did, but you didn't.
Okay.
You to watch a person get to opt in by staying in a safe place and then opt in by moving here and moving there. Like you said. Oh, another huge gift was getting to watch you say that one day. My yes was that I could leave at any time.
Yeah.
And you gave so many people permission through that. So to get to watch you state and declare your comforts and discomforts, your needs, your allotness, and have it received by a corporate group. Yeah, it was absolutely beautiful. Because you and I have always said from the beginning that we can't be each other's everything. And so to watch you get to sprinkle that, the needs, to watch you get to receive from the collective was like exactly what we've always said in practice. And I just got to glow at, yeah, this is my partner. And I just, to get to share that experience with you, those 5 days, I couldn't put a dollar value on it. I just kept thinking, how would I come home and tell Trey about this? I don't know. I don't know how I could have possibly put into words. Yeah, and then we did a rock forest tree thing. I don't know how we would have done that. So thank you. My favorite part was witnessing you in your agency over the week take, grow, and become.
Thank you, baby.
Thank you for coming to this episode. Part 2 of Wheel of Consent, Training Like a Pro. Please remember that these are our opinions and our opinions only. We encourage you to do your own research. You have a right to informed decision-making and self-determination. If you want to talk more with me about the Wheel of Consent, because that's my favorite, go to sexedforyou.com/free consult. Remember, take what you like, leave the rest. Have a great rest of your day, and we will talk to you soon. Bye-bye.